Hi, besties. Before we dive into the episode, I just want to provide a quick disclaimer. You Are the Healer is here for empowerment, storytelling, and those aha moments, but it is not a substitute for therapy, medical advice, or professional help. I'm sharing my experiences, education, and opinions to support you, not to diagnose you. Everything you hear on the show is for informational and educational purposes only. You are responsible for your own choices, healing journey, and how you apply what resonates. If you need deeper support, please reach out to a qualified professional that can support you on your healing journey. All right, disclaimers done. Let's dive into this episode. Welcome back to You Are the Healer in our season of The Borrowed Mind with all of our guest speakers. I'm so excited to introduce Ken Miller to the show.
Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to come on your show, and I'm looking forward to our conversation.
Yeah, awesome. So I think we should just get right into it. I know you have a really compelling story about resilience and all of the things that you've been through in your life. So I would love if you could talk about you and your journey.
Sure. Many times they call it the hero's journey. I don't know if I'm a hero, but it is my journey, and I'm going to try to share as much truth as I possibly can. And we'll go from like a 30,000 foot view. Very simply, I'm 63 years old. I was born in October of 1962. My mother was a white teenage runaway, and my dad was a black pimp and drug dealer. Those are facts. And I am the union of those two individuals. And at birth, my mother put me up for adoption. Racial children in 1962 were not very common at all. So my mother's Irish, or was Irish. She's passed away. So I always tell people I'm Black Irish. That's what I am. And what I ended up doing is going through foster homes for 6 years. And then I was married. I was adopted by Irene and Sam Miller at age 6. And when I was adopted, this is interesting. I couldn't read. I could not write. I could not tell
Wow.
time. And I couldn't even tie my shoes because the foster homes weren't teaching me.
I already want to jump in. I'm so curious about people's experiences, but my dad's adopted too. So I'm just curious kind of what that was like growing up. I mean, the foster care system is like its own thing, but what was it like from like an identity standpoint?
Well, very important. So I did a talk on identity, and that was one of the things that I talked about. So the identity that I had as a 4-year-old is that I did not have a mother. I didn't even think about dads and fathers. I'll be honest. I knew I didn't have a mother.
Yeah.
And I knew that I was not wanted. And
Mm.
that's a terrible feeling for a 4-year-old to be even to understand and articulate that.
Mm-hmm.
All I wanted when I was 4 and 5 and 6 years old was to have someone I could call mother. That's
Mm.
my whole thing. Wasn't to
Yeah.
play, wasn't to get on the tricycle. Yeah, I just wanted a mom. So
Yeah. That's such like a evolutionarily thing that like humans and I mean really everybody is like wired to find that sense of like belonging and being a small kid and not having that, I can only imagine was really, really scary.
yeah,
So you did get adopted at age 6, it sounds like.
I was adopted, only child. My mother did not have any children, and my father had kids from a former marriage. So I get adopted, and my mom taught me to read the first summer. Never forget.
Nice.
And the little phonetic cards, TH, PH, and I learned through phonetics how to read. I
Hmm.
fell in love with reading. Fell in love with reading. And so by the time I was in second grade, I was reading at the fifth grade level. I
Wow.
was precocious. And what that means is by the time I was 17, I was a National Merit Scholar. I was
Mhm.
accepted to Harvard, accepted to Dartmouth, and
Wow.
accepted to Oberlin. Of course, I wanted to go to Oberlin, and my mother was very, very funny about it. She said, "Where do you want to go to college?" I said, "Oberlin." And she said, "That's great. What's your first choice?" And so it was going to be one of the Ivies. So
Yeah.
I hated cities. So I grew up in upstate New York. Age 12, I moved to Anchorage, Alaska. So I grew up in Alaska
Okay. Wow.
and went off from Alaska to New Hampshire to go to Dartmouth. And at age 17, and I had some difficulties. And when I say by having difficulty, the word I use for most times when I'm speaking is I was broken. I was broken.
Mm.
And what does that
Yeah.
mean? There was an integrity of my character and who I was. I was very immature. I'm 17 years old. Many of the other students were much more mature than I was. I couldn't drive. I'd never been with a girl. I mean, I was very
Mhm.
mature and I'm 17. So I was,
Mhm.
I was like a little nerd. And so I go off but I'd come off a lot of violence as a child.
Mhm.
And especially, I'd come off of some great violence my senior year in high school. We
Mm.
literally were hiding out from my father. My father and I had gotten into an altercation. Police were called, and we hid for the last 3 or 4 months of my high school senior year. This is a
Wow.
terrible, terrible thing to
Yeah.
experience because I was in
Yeah.
such fear of my father. So I go off to college. I am confused. I had never drank. I'd never done drugs.
Mhm.
And I remember I walk into the dorm the first day, and I mean it was in the evening, and the doors open and they're like smoking weed, and this is college,
Yeah.
1980, and I'm like, isn't that illegal? Who is this guy? I started drinking my freshman year, and within a month I was a full blown alcoholic, full blown
Mm.
alcoholic.
Yeah. So just curious about that experience. So like you for me it sounds like almost a little bit like sheltered from a lot of those like life
Mhm.
experiences, like, substances. So what was it about alcohol that so quickly for you like
Yeah.
jumped to alcoholism? What did the alcohol do for you as a 17-year-old?
Well, what alcohol does for every or almost all college freshmen, it allows you to talk to the opposite sex or the same sex if
Mm.
you go that way. That's one of
Yeah.
the main things it does
Yeah.
because you come in, shy or remember I'm at Dartmouth, so there's a lot of nerds, there's a lot of individuals, who are smart, but there was a lot of kids that went to prep school. Anyway, the social scene we lubricate with alcohol.
Mhm.
Right? We lubricate
Mhm.
to make friends, guy friends. So I joined a fraternity. I had opportunity to communicate with girls. Girls had opportunity to communicate with me.
Mhm.
And I'm trying to find myself and my sexuality. But this is very important that you understand this, Sydney. This is my experience and truth.
Mhm.
I didn't become an alcoholic because of the things that happened to me as a child. It wasn't because I was beat. It wasn't because I was a foster child. It wasn't
Mhm.
because I was broken when I went off to college. The
Mhm.
reason I'm an alcoholic is genetically. I have a
Mm.
predisposition to addictive behavior. And literally, what makes me an alcoholic, this is a great one for the audience. This is, again, my truth. What
Mhm.
makes you an alcoholic is I have the inability to stop once I start.
Mhm.
I don't have a turn off switch
Mhm.
because literally after about 2 or 3 beers, I just say "F it," and I
Right.
have a capacity to drink a large amount, and under the influence of alcohol, I make really bad decisions and drugs, 'cause what drugs will
Mhm.
come into this story. So what I have is the inability to drink without pain on the back end, period.
Mhm.
I just
Mhm.
celebrated last month 21 years being clean and sober, and so I can
Congratulations.
speak
That's
to this.
huge. Yeah.
I've
Yeah.
been to 14 inpatient treatment centers.
Wow.
I've
Wow.
been in prison 3 different times, spent years behind bars. I've been arrested probably 30 times. I was
Wow.
homeless for 20 years. This is with an Ivy League degree,
Yeah.
but it began my freshman year, but I'm protected there. I'm in an environment that protects the students. So
Yeah.
I'm protected from the repercussions of my actions. And I still
Mm.
have bad actions, but
Mhm.
I'm on campus. I'm not gonna do a lot of bad things, but I did some goofy stuff.
Mhm.
Then, when you get out, it's not the same.
Yeah, definitely. And I think the culture of college,
Mhm.
especially in America, is like you can drink as much as you want and it's like no one bats an eye. So like you can drink every day of the week and it's normal. And I know that's something that I really experienced in college was like drinking, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, probably Sunday too, just because it was so normalized in college culture. So when did you know that you had a problem with alcohol?
Months after I started drinking.
Okay, so pretty early on, you
Yeah.
had some awareness
Yeah,
there.
so I started drinking probably October. By December, I know I was a full blown, especially looking back. But
Mhm.
again, the pain and repercussions weren't as great.
Mhm.
I
Yeah.
remember my girlfriend at the time, she said, you would call me, you'd wake me up because you're calling me drunk 2 o'clock in the morning your time, and you would start talking. I would fall asleep. I'd wake up a half hour, 45 minutes later, you're still talking.
Oh,
True
wow.
story.
Yeah.
And this is back in the day, it cost money. My mom was
Oh,
paying it
yeah,
forward.
wow.
Yeah. This is not WhatsApp. It's not free. Okay. This
Right.
is 1980, 81. And again, new. Literally, I drank for 6 months. I come back home from college. My mom sends me to my first AA meeting. First
Wow.
one. And this is like unheard of. So if you're looking at me, I look fine. And I'm 18. And I'm going to
Mhm.
AA, all these old white dudes. And so that didn't stick too well with me. But she knew because my father was an alcoholic.
Mm.
The adoptive father wasn't.
Oh,
But
yeah.
but see, and so there was a part of me that says, well, I'm not gonna be alcohol. I'm never gonna be anything like my dad.
Yeah. So what was it like going into AA at 18 years old, with a bunch of people that don't look like you? They're much older. Like, what was your experience like?
So when I went in when I was 18, I went to the meeting in Anchorage, Alaska. It was on a Sunday. I know the exact church. I can see it. And I
Mhm.
walk into the meeting and there was like 10 white females. And I'm like, oh, this is cool. I like this. And I didn't, and then we do the meeting. Remember, it was my first meeting. And they
Uh-huh.
come to me after and they said, we just like you to know that there's like men's meetings and there's women's meetings. And this is a women's meeting,
Oh my
but we could
gosh.
tell you were new. So
So we didn't say anything.
I'm like, oh man, I thought this was gonna be like this from this
Yeah. You're
point
like,
on.
great ratios.
Yeah, I
That's
loved it.
hilarious.
So I just went to that one, didn't go back for another 2, 3 years.
Okay. Okay. So I imagine you graduated college. What was your major at Dartmouth?
A fraternity with a minor in drinking. You think I'm kidding? It doesn't say that on my diploma. It doesn't say on my diploma, but that's the truth. I got out and I'll never forget my mother says to me, Kenneth, don't do anything on Monday. I'm going to take you somewhere. I'm like, cool. Because all my fraternity brothers, when you graduate, one of the things that's very common is you get a car, get your first car.
Mm,
So
yeah.
I'm like, cool, I'm going to get a car. I'm trying to think what I want and all this stuff. I'm 21. And we drive past the dealerships. I'm like, what's up with this? Because they're all on this one street. And we go to this place called North Point, and it was outpatient treatment
Mm,
center. That was my gift from my mother, was my first treatment center. And I did it and stayed sober for 2 years.
okay.
But you can play games with addiction. And so I played
Mm,
games with addiction. See, I thought I was an alcoholic. Well, I knew I was an alcoholic, but I didn't think I had a problem with weed or cocaine
mm,
because I hadn't had a problem with weed or cocaine because I couldn't afford enough cocaine
mhm,
in college.
mhm,
Now I'm making money. I'm doing really well. So I'm working. I have Hickey Freeman suits on, Allen Edmonds shoes, silk ties, silk suspenders, look good, smell
mhm,
good, talk good, and I'm sober.
mhm,
And so, like most of the people at my job, we're all in sales.
mhm,
You run fast, hit the club, whatever.
mhm.
Anyway, I finally go and I relapsed in Hawaii, 1986, and I came back. And that began a journey for the next 21 years. I was to be either homeless, incarcerated, in treatment, or in between those
Wow.
three.
Wow.
21 years on the streets.
That is a very long time.
It is. It
Yeah.
is. Too long. Too
Yeah.
long. Okay.
Mhm. Yeah. So what got you out of that spot after all those years?
Pain, thought, God. So let's talk a little bit about that period so you can understand the depths of where I
Yeah,
went.
definitely.
So I get out of college, I'm working corporate, making $50,000 a year in 1985, which is a lot of money.
Mhm.
Okay. Look good, smell good, talk good.
Mhm.
Next year, 1986, my dad shoots my mom,
Oh
shoots her,
my God. Wow.
shot her 6 times, hit her 5 times. And while he's shooting her, he's telling her, I'm going to kill that SOB, Ken. He's going to come to my job and shoot me. He's telling
Wow.
who my
Wow.
mother loves me more than anything.
Mhm.
And this is how broken I was. And listeners, you may find this to be of interest. I am so broken in how I deal with life and how I deal with trauma that I get a call from my mom's secretary. She had 3 secretaries. She ran the schools of nursing for the colleges. And they're like, Kenneth, it's Roxy. Sam shot Irene. Sam shot Irene. She's at Providence. She's freaking out. It was at the job. And I said, okay. I go to my boss, Bobby Hires. I walk up to him and say, Bobby, do you mind if I take a little time off? My mom has been shot. She's in the hospital. Do you mind? He freaks out because he also knew a little bit of my situation with my father.
Uh-huh.
I go there, my mom's lying on a gurney with a sheet up to her neck, and there's blood coming through the sheet. She's in pre-op.
Mm.
And all she says to me, she's first of all, she's glad I'm alive because she
Mhm.
thinks that Sam went and shot me. And
Mhm.
she's like, grab my shoes and my purse. And literally, I had no emotion. What you see right here is what my mom saw. I'm
Wow.
like, okay. I grabbed her shoes, I grabbed her purse, and I went back to work like nothing happened.
What? Oh my gosh. Was it like shock, dissociation? Like what
No,
was
it's
that?
the way I had created a defense mechanism to not feel
Mm.
pain. My
Mm.
dad beat me bad,
Right.
bad. We
Mhm.
yeah, we moved to Alaska from upstate New York to get away from him.
Mhm.
Okay? So my way of dealing with tremendous fear was two ways. One, to not feel, and
Mm.
two, to displace that anger I had at my father upon others. So I
Mm.
was really bad in school with my behavior. My grades, I was a National Merit Scholar,
Mhm.
advanced placement, all that.
Mhm.
So my thoughts were, so what would happen was my father didn't want me to show emotion when he beat me, literally.
Mhm. Yeah.
And I acquired that. So, and I didn't know until like years later, my mom, we were in family therapy. She told me how much that hurt her. She thought I didn't love her
Mm.
because I had no
Yeah.
emotion. Right.
Mhm.
And so I tried to make it into something that's cognitive instead of being in the feeling.
Mm.
Okay. And
Okay. Can
then
you
later
explain
on,
more of that? Cognitive over feeling? What does that mean?
yeah, well, they're two different parts of the brain. This is the thinking part of your brain. That's why we have big foreheads.
Mhm.
Okay. And those has to do with cognition. It has to
Mhm.
do with information and knowledge. Whereas the feeling part of your brain is more primitive because it protects the organism.
Mm.
And it also makes sure that the species continues existing.
Mhm.
So your sex drive is there and your anger and fear are
Mhm.
located in this primitive part, this lower
Mhm.
part of the brain. My thing is, I was so afraid many times of my feelings because what happens is when I have great fear, usually it'll manifest itself as anger and I
Mhm.
will something or somebody.
Mhm.
So I had a bad habit. I used to punch out windows. That's what I would do in college,
Mhm.
at least three occasions that I can remember.
Yeah.
And, and there's people that punch walls, you
Yeah,
know.
totally. I think especially with a lot of men, it's like you're
Oh,
conditioned
yes.
that anger is okay to feel. And so, it's okay and it's healthy to express it. And you've seen it exemplified for you as well. Other people in your life, I think typically with men, it's like you see the demonstrations of anger, but you might not see someone experiencing fear or experiencing sadness. And so it's almost like the surface level emotion that you can express when it's like the thing that's really driving the anger is something more like intense fear or something like that.
100%. I've been talking about this for 15 years.
Yeah.
Under all anger is fear. All
Mm,
100% of anger. I'll just speak for myself is fear.
yeah.
But you
Yeah.
got to understand, what is fear? What is fear? Fear is the future anticipation or expectation of pain. That's all it is.
Mm,
Whether it's
yeah.
1 second away or a year away.
Mhm.
You have an expectation or anticipation of pain. And one of the things when I work with the guys I work with, I mentor all over the country, and I've done a lot of work with me.
Mhm.
We have to identify what is the pain and then
Mm,
what is the self talk. And if we can get to that level, what is the core issue? I have one core
mhm.
issue in my whole existence. I have one core issue, and that is that I'm going to die alone. That's my core issue
Mm, mm.
from, being a foster child.
Mhm.
I've always felt abandoned, or I did. It's not my core issue now,
Mhm.
but it's been my core issue below everything.
Mhm. Yeah.
Why did I have the inability to say no on so many occasions? What scripts do I play out? But the anger's always is the superficial on the outside, but you got to
Mhm.
peel away. When I'm in fear, it gives me the emotion I usually will show is fight.
Mm. Yeah.
We all know what the fight, flight, freeze.
Right.
There's also another one. Well, it's fight, flight, freeze, or accept.
Oh.
You accept that you have fear. It's
Mm.
acceptance. Okay, now that we know that we have fear, what is the expectation of pain? What is that pain if we have the time to do this? And now, what is our solution? And the solution is courage.
Mm,
All courage is one of the most beautiful words in our language. It comes from the word
yeah.
le coeur. Coeur. Coeur is heart in French, but courage means to have heart. And what it means is the willingness to accept the possibility of pain.
Mm,
And it's a possibility. Sometimes it's a 99% possibility, but
mhm,
sometimes it's 5%. There have been times, Sydney, I'm sure you have been in fear. You had an anticipation of some future event, place, happening, experience being painful. And then
mhm.
you go through the experience, you're like, what was I scared about?
Yep.
I,
Yep.
I mean, I had one years ago. My boss, hey, I need to see you on Thursday. I'm like, I might as well
Mm,
pack my stuff now.
right. Yep.
You
Getting
know,
fired for sure.
well, yeah. Well, there was one time I
Yeah.
didn't even show up. I just send me my check. But anyway,
Mhm.
I go in to see the one because I had courage
Mhm.
to do the next indicated thing. And he's
Mhm.
like, "You've been doing such a great job. We have another position, or we want to give you a promotion."
And you're like, why was I so scared? And say I had a situation this last weekend actually. I was so anxious and in fear because I had to go see my whole family over the weekend. And it's unpredictable how it's gonna go sometimes. And so like the day before I couldn't sleep because I was so
I
anxious, just
know.
anticipating it. And then I get there and it's like not just fine, but it was like kind of great. And I was like, why was I so nervous about this? Like it was way better than I was expecting it to go in my head.
And you can find that out if you so choose. If you want to take the time to try to understand what are those dynamics. So remember the emotion is for so this way. An emotion is an opinion. It's
Mm,
literally an opinion. But what happens with the emotions are chemicals are released, and that's the
mhm.
feeling,
Mhm.
you know, the anxiety, the squinting of the eyes, whatever it may be. But it's an opinion on a past or future experience. Okay.
Mhm.
And so there have been other past ones, but the key one is I work with people. And when I'm talking with people, is how do we change the feeling and how do we modify? And the other thing is that it's real important to understand magnitude. So this is life. Life goes from a negative 10 to a positive 10.
Mhm.
Okay. Zero is neutral. Minus 10, suicide. You've committed
Mhm.
suicide. Okay.
Mhm.
I lived in six, sevens, and eights. That was my daily existence on the streets because I'm always in fear
Mhm.
of somebody I've ripped off, somebody I owed money. I always had warrants out for my arrest, dot, dot, dot,
Mhm.
dot.
Mhm.
Plus, I'm in fear of myself.
Mhm.
Literally, I'm in an adversarial relationship with myself because there's a
Mhm.
part of me that says, go do this crime, go do this,
Mhm.
go do something else that's going to make you feel less than or is shame based.
Mhm.
Okay. Then there is the up to a plus 10. Okay. I smoked crack cocaine or smoked it.
Mhm.
You can do a crack cocaine hit that's a 9.9.
Mhm.
10-year heart will burst, but it's
Mhm.
9.9. We call them bell ringers. Okay.
Mhm.
I've made it a conscious decision. I just stay three, 3 to 6, 3 to 7. I'm cool with that. Every once in a while, I'll
Mhm.
have something that's beautiful with the grandkids or with the family or with my wife. That's an
Mhm.
8.
Mhm.
But I don't seek, and but more importantly, I don't ever get below like a -2 or a -3.
Mhm.
There are days that I'm depressed, and you know what I do? I say, "I'm depressed.
No,
I'm
you
down."
accept it.
I accept it, and
Mhm.
I don't try to find out why. I have the exact same situations that I had the day before, and I wasn't depressed. Sometimes it's just organic. And
Mhm.
so what I do, I don't beat myself up for being depressed or not working.
Mhm.
And I usually grab a pint of Haagen-Dazs butter pecan ice cream, and I get in bed,
Mhm.
and I eat my Haagen-Dazs and watch a little TV or read a great book, and
Mhm.
then I go to bed, and I'm usually fine the next morning.
Mhm.
I
Yeah.
haven't had depression that lasted more than probably 2 or 3 days in 20 years.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that paints such a good image for people to kind of understand what your life was like when you were, on the streets in and out of jails because like a -10, like we can feel the magnitude of that, and then a, +10. And it's like you were rotating between these
Yeah.
extremes. And it was almost like I can imagine that the lower that you get on the scale, the more the like drive is to seek out those things that bring you up to a 9.9, because you're trying
True.
to escape that pain that you're experiencing. So it's like the more pain you have, the more of the drive you have to find something to take it away. Walk me through what happened when you were going from working in your nice suits, your nice cologne, into substance use or becoming homeless. Like, what was that experience like?
It was brutal because you always know where you've been and who you were.
Mhm.
It's one thing to grow up in a bad neighborhood or grow up in the hood or grow up in, broken family, broken everything, having brothers that are in and out of prison, sisters, with
Mhm.
knuckleheads, whatever. I didn't grow up in that. I grew up
Uh-huh.
in a middle class, upper middle class, Anchorage, Alaska, Ivy League. I
Mhm.
get out, I relapse, and literally I relapsed in 86. And by 88, I'm in the missions. That means I'm on the streets
Okay. I was
in
gonna ask.
mission.
Okay.
And
Wow.
it didn't take long. I went to my first inpatient treatment center.
Mhm.
Again, I've been to 14 of them. The first few years, I'm drinking, I'm out there hustling. So, what does it mean to be a hustler? It means we do whatever we can to make money. So, my
Mhm.
main thing and what became one of my main things is I became a male prostitute, is what I
Mm.
did.
Wow.
And because I'm good looking black male,
Mhm.
and it was individuals that would pay me, they weren't women, to provide services. And I'm taking that and smoking crack, but I'm
Yeah.
hating myself.
Yeah.
But so it's weird. Like I said, the trauma. What I hadn't told you about is that I got raped. I was raped by another man.
Mm. Mm.
And it's always really, I don't say good, but I'm so understanding of women when I know what it feels like to take a 3-hour shower and still feel dirty. I know what that's like.
Yeah.
I know what that walk is when you leave the
Mhm.
perpetrator place and then you blame yourself for putting yourself
Mhm.
in situation. I know
Yeah.
when you say, if I hadn't done these drugs or I hadn't drank that much, this would not have happened to me. And
Mhm.
you get the sense that you don't trust yourself, and just that sense
Uh-huh.
of feeling dirty. I just felt so
Yeah.
dirty because that's not the way I was flowing at all. But once
Mhm.
that it opened up a door where I'm like, "F it," and if I have a money maker, I'm gonna do whatever I can to make that money so
Yeah.
I can continue being oblivious to my circumstances. I almost felt
Mm.
at the end, this was my lot in life, and that's that
Mm.
self-pity, terribly emotion to have
Yeah.
is self-pity. Because what
Mhm.
what it takes away is agency. Okay, it takes away my responsibility for my happiness, my responsible for being an upstanding individual. And so I did it.
Mhm.
And this is another big one, Sydney, is that for many people who have either raped or in the sex trades, it's a secret. It's our secret. And
Mhm.
killing me.
Yeah.
That secret was so bad that that was one of the most important things I had to do when I got well is to take away the power of the negative secret.
And I commend you so much for sharing all of that on here and what I can imagine to a lot of people, in your speaking events and things like that,
Huh?
because the pain and the shame that you experience when something has to be a secret, when, you've had a negative experience and you feel like I can't tell anyone because like just the shame eats you alive, but the antidote to it is sharing it with other people. And I can think of, the people that will listen to this and hear your story. And like, I just have chills thinking about it because the representation that, you're not alone in your experience. And, people unfortunately know just what it was like, to be, assaulted and have your power and autonomy taken away. It's a terrible experience. And it's also so important to talk about it because then other people will know that they're not alone and they won't, live their life feeling as if, it was something that they did or it's their fault or, that they're dirty forever. So I really, really commend you for sharing that. And I can only imagine having that experience and then, using your body to get by after too. I feel like
Mm,
that's like a compounding
yeah,
thing.
yeah. You know, I have talked to over 150 working girls,
Mhm.
okay, prostitutes. I was
Mhm.
one of them, but so because we have our own world and we would sit around smoking crack,
Mhm.
and drinking. So we lived out of motels. Okay.
Mhm.
And I've done this in 4 or 5 different cities. And the interesting, they really liked me because number one, I didn't stress them for sex. The last thing on my
Mm.
mind, because they're
Yeah.
always getting stressed or approached, whether or not they're turning a trick or whatever. The key thing is I would just talk to them as another human to another
Mhm.
person to another, because 60, 70% of them have children. But I will tell you this, 100% of the street level, at least working girls that I've had conversations with have had child or young sexual abuse, period.
Mhm.
Because I would talk to them about it.
Mhm.
They would talk to me about it. Every
Yeah.
single one.
Mhm.
Because what it does is it shuts down. To us, it's just an action to a
Mhm.
means, which is to get our drug of choice or pay the pimp or whatever it is. But you don't need. So the part about letting it go, that is to take away the power of it being shame versus, in times, and I'll talk about this, guilt. The difficulty with shame is a I am statement. I
Mhm.
am less than. I
Mhm.
am not valuable. I am. Guilt is I did.
Uh-huh.
I'm guilty of all the stuff that I've been convicted of, and that was only 1, 2, 3% of the things I did on the streets.
Mhm.
And remember, that's why I said I'm not saying I'm worse than, but you've got to understand the level that I reached
Mhm.
it's rare that people will survive,
Mhm.
because again, there's agency and there's self-talk and there's a sense of how we deal with the world that most don't come out of, that go to that level. They're either
Right.
dead,
Mm.
they're in prison, or they're in their addiction to this day.
Right.
Most of the time, dead or in prison.
Right. Yeah, a lot of people don't reach the point where you're at now after experiencing something like that.
No, no. I own
Yeah.
5 businesses. I'm a millionaire.
Yeah.
Okay. I have people I mentor, I coach, I
Mhm.
speak. I have a book club that's free. I mentor for free. I speak
Mhm.
across this country many times for free.
So, how did you come back from all of that? I know we kind of touched
I
on it a
love it.
little bit,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
But like, let's get
Uh,
into it more.
let's talk about the solution,
Yeah,
because I can sit
definitely.
here and tell you stories for the next 3 days.
Right,
Okay.
right.
I mean, literally stories.
I bet.
Oh, here, let's go to September 22nd, 2004. I wake up in a closet because I'm living in a closet, a broom closet in this rooming house
Mhm.
that my sugar daddy used to live. A sugar daddy is an individual that will take care of you like full time.
Mhm.
Again, you're providing service, but it's not just a transactional. You live,
Mhm.
it's a sugar daddy, and you can always contact that person. Anyway, I'd lost my sugar daddy, and so now my jaw is wired shut
Mm.
because I'd had got my jaw broken twice in the month before.
Jeez.
The landlord opens up the door and he sees this person with crack pipe, lighter, some empty 40-ounce beer in the closet.
Mhm.
I've been in there for 2 days, and I sort of liked it because I didn't have any input, no external. It's just this dark closet.
Mhm.
And I just wanted people to leave me alone. I wanted life to leave me alone.
Mhm.
And so he kicks me out. I go to the library. I go to sleep underneath the microfilm machine. I remember that, the Washoe County Library. I get up, let's say about 1, and I'm suicidal at this point.
Mhm.
And I had already tried to kill myself twice, and I would have been successful. I, you just know when you know.
Mhm.
So, but I called my mom one last time. I say, "Hey, Mom, can you send me to treatment?" I wasn't allowed in her house because I had burglarized her house.
Mm.
Okay. So
Yeah.
not even allowed. But she would said, "I'll have a ticket for you." She still loves me.
Mhm.
"I'll have a ticket for you at the bus station. All you gotta do is make it till 6 o'clock." And I was okay, cool. So I go out there, do a couple hustles. I get paid in crack cocaine. And
Mhm.
one of 2 times I've been smoking crack for 20, well, really 18 years. One of only 2 times I didn't smoke every piece of crack that was in front of me.
Oh, wow.
Okay, once I had food poisoning. This time I had a $10 rock of crack cocaine. I have no money. I need money for the bus ride because I'm going from Reno, Nevada to Seattle, Washington to go back into the Seattle Gospel Mission drug treatment program. They don't know I'm coming, but It's a free program for street people. I have my $10 rock. I go to sell it. There's another drug dealer who I know. I say, hey, man, can I get this one? He said, go ahead, even though he was like his corner. But he's like, go
Mhm.
ahead, man. It's called curb serving. And I go up and I sell to the undercover street enforcement team, Reno Police
Mm.
Department. And I tell people cops are coming out like manhole covers. I had never seen so many cops. They just came everywhere. They're like, oh
Wow.
my God. So this is a part of the story. I'm hemmed up waiting for the paddy wagon and I'm crying, profusely crying. And the cop comes up to me and he says, why are you crying? You know, do you think I'm hurt or
Mhm.
injured? And remember, my jaw's wired. I said, I'm crying because I'm going to live. I'm
Mm.
crying in gratitude because I can
Mm.
do prison. I've been there twice before. And I
Yeah.
played pinochle, played basketball, hang
Mhm.
out with the guys. I can do prison. I can't do
Mhm.
me on the street. I don't tell
Yeah.
him all that,
Yeah.
but I'm crying. And you gotta understand, when I get arrested, I have a pair of sneakers on, no socks, a pair of shorts, no underwear, a t-shirt, and that's all the possessions I owned in the world. That's how
Wow.
I was living. I
Wow.
have blisters on every finger of my hand because I'm trying to light the lighter to smoke my crack. I have blisters on all my fingers because all I do is walk around hustling, literally walking
Mhm.
around. We call it the little loop and the big loop.
Mhm.
And I got breakouts on my face, you know, from picking at myself. I
Mhm.
weigh 160. I weigh 200 plus pounds now, 205. And I'm about
Mhm.
162 at that time. I'm a mess. And
Mhm.
my jaw's wired shut. And so I go into jail. And the beautiful thing about a month later, I'm laying on the bunk, Unit 13, Par Boulevard, which is the county jail. And God and I had a conversation. No, we didn't have a
Mm.
conversation. He talked to me and I listened.
Mm.
And he said, it's not going to be easy. It's not going to be without pain, but I will be there with you.
Mm. Had you had
I love telling the story.
Yeah, I really am
Go ahead.
enjoying it. Have you had a relationship with God up until this point? Like, is that religion? Was that ever something in your life?
Very poor. I didn't grow up in a church. I grew up as a friend, which is Quakers. Once every 4 or 5 months, mom and I would go to church. I never saw my dad go to church ever.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Near the adoptive father. So
Mhm.
it takes 3 months to go to prison. I get sentenced to 6 years in the penitentiary for a $10 rock of crack cocaine. The judge guaranteed me. He said, "You next time you come in my courtroom, because I would always go in front of Judge Hardesty, I'm giving you the habitual criminal statute." My next felony was 25 to life.
Wow.
That means I have to do at least 25 years with
Wow.
my Ivy League education if I stole $51.
Wow.
Okay, that's a felony.
Yeah.
Okay. Remember, I had 3 of them: drug
Mhm.
possession, drug sales, and burglary are my
Mhm.
felonies.
Mhm.
So got 6 years. I'll get good time and all that other junk. But anyway, I go in, and this is another real important part, probably one of the most important. So I have God, which just tells me that whatever stress, whatever discomfort, we can get through this together. Just
Mhm.
believe in me. I
Mhm.
21 years later, I still believe. And I said this when I walked into the penitentiary. If I am the same person going into the penitentiary, no, I am the same person coming out of the penitentiary that am coming out. I mean, coming in.
Mhm.
Sorry, I said that wrong. Then I'm
I
going to
know
have
what
the
you
same
mean.
results when
Right.
we go back out. Yeah. If
Mhm.
I'm the same person when I leave this penitentiary that I was when I came in, I'm going to have the same results. So I
Exactly.
have to work on 4 areas: physical, emotional, intellectual, and spiritual.
Mm.
Physical, I started working out in the gym. I started powerlifting. I did very, very well as a power lifter. Great.
Mhm.
Played basketball. Great. Most valuable
Mhm.
player in my league. That's physical. Because remember, I came in there at 160. I left there
Mhm.
at over 200.
Wow.
Okay. And that's
Yeah.
3 years. Second was intellectual. Like, why do you have to
Mhm.
work on intellectual? Well, let me tell you, when I went into prison, I would read a paragraph. And by the time I got to the last sentence of the paragraph, I couldn't tell you what the first sentence said.
Mm.
No comprehension,
Yeah.
no memory. I couldn't use the memory. Plus my
Yeah.
vocabulary. I had a good vocabulary, but probably 50, 60% of the words I couldn't use on this podcast. Okay. But I had a vocabulary.
Yep.
It was a small one. So started reading. This is the truth. 1 year, I read 160 books.
Wow.
I write down
Wow.
every single book I've read since I went into the penitentiary, January of 2005. I just did last year my 1,000th book.
Wow.
90 to 95% are nonfiction. I write it
Nice.
down, I rate them, who the author, how many pages. I just finished last year, my 1000th book
Wow.
since I
Nice.
went down in 2005. Okay,
Yeah.
so I'm reading. I ended
Mhm.
up reading like 300 books while I was in prison.
Uh-huh.
That takes care of the intellectual. Plus, I'm teaching in the school because I have this background. Third thing, probably the most important, was the emotional.
Mhm.
'Cause remember, I had these secrets.
Mhm.
You don't go into prison and say, "Yeah, I was a male prostitute on the streets." No,
Right. No.
no, I don't say that on the streets. Okay, because people will treat you differently, and
Mhm.
I was not willing to be treated differently
Mhm.
at that time
Mhm.
because of my secrets. Plus, they were secrets. Nobody knew about them. And
Right.
I'm shame based. I'm hating myself because that's
Mhm.
about the lowest thing you can be. In a penitentiary, a child molester is the lowest thing you can be. But on the
Mhm.
street, we don't see child molesters. But on the streets, a male prostitute, it's about as low as you can be. Okay. So I get a counselor. I never forget, I asked the counselor, how many people on your caseload? And she's not supposed to tell me, she's a civilian. But we had built a good relationship.
Mhm.
And she said two guys out of
Wow.
1,100 getting free
Wow.
counseling. And so
Wow.
what I did was I started talking to her about the shooting. I started talking to her about the rape. I started talking to her because I felt safe talking to her about turning tricks.
Mhm.
And once I told one, then I went to like my small group in AA because I'm in a drug
Mm.
program for a year called Wings in the
Mhm.
penitentiary, and I shared it in a small group. And then I probably did maybe a little bigger group in AA, but that's about it in the penitentiary. I still didn't do it out on the yard.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
And
Mhm.
then when I got out, I shared it with my sponsor. And then I started sharing it in the rooms of recovery. And
Mm.
then I started talking about it from the stage.
Yeah.
Okay. So that dealt with the shame.
Mhm. With things like that, like usually the first time you say something, it's like it feels like life or death, right? You're like, "Oh my gosh, the shame's gonna eat me alive." But then every time after when you're sharing it, it feels a little bit
Right.
lighter and it has less of a grip on you, at least from my experience. That's what I've noticed.
I've talked about it in probably 70 or 80 podcasts. I've talked on stage,
Yeah.
20, 30 times to thousands of people.
Mhm.
And the beautiful thing, so the first time I did it on stage, which was really interesting. So first of all, the first time I did it on stage, I remember, and I had to look at this. There were two women crying because
Mm.
I went somewhere that brought them back to maybe a situation. And that's
Mhm.
not what I meant to do by that. This is just my truth and my experience. And I've taken away and I'm sharing it here. But then to go after, so what happens is when you speak many times in public speaking, you'll do
Mhm.
your talk and then you'll leave the stage. And then people many times will line up to talk to you, to
Yeah.
thank you. Hey, this resonated, whatever. Or sometimes
Mhm.
they want to give you some criticism. I think you
Uh-huh.
shouldn't talk about this.
Mm.
And then a lot of times, many of them, I'll go out and talk to them in the halls, and women will sit down with me and share their secret or their
Mhm.
shame because they know I'm not going to say anything about it. They don't.
Right.
I live in Alaska. Or I live in Washington. I'm in
Mhm.
Atlanta talking. But the beauty and what they say, they're like, I can't believe you said that. And they're
Mhm.
like, they're so thankful that someone had the courage
Mhm.
in public to say something that they haven't even told their mama,
Mhm.
let alone their best friend.
Mhm.
You see what I'm saying? Or a counselor. And
Yeah.
so remember, that's one of the reasons why we go to counseling. The key thing is there's a safe place. So anyway, I took away the power of the negative secret.
Mhm.
Took away that
Yeah.
power. But I want to say this. Number one, I am well. I
Mhm.
am well. And what does that mean and why is that important?
Mm.
There are some people who are always working on themselves.
Mm.
They got 20 years clean and sober, 15 years, great life, great family, but they're working on themselves.
Mhm.
I am good with good. I don't need to
Mm.
be great. I don't have the
Mm.
capacity to be great. And I'm really cool with Ken. I
Yeah.
like me. I like me. I hated me. I cannot explain enough how much I hated me. I used
Mhm.
to get in front of the mirror with my 40 ounce of natural ice beer, and I would
Mhm.
have tears flowing down, and I would just say the most foul things to me.
Mm.
You dot dot dot. I
Uh-huh.
can't believe you did this. And I'm talking to me
Right.
in the mirror,
Mhm.
eating. And then I would burn myself, cut myself. So
Mm.
anyway, Ken, that's the path. I'm well today.
Mhm.
And so what does that give me the ability to do? Because I'm not so self-absorbed in fixing me. It allows me to
Mm.
work with others. So I have
Mm.
12 men that I mentioned. I have a book club of Black men that I
Nice.
do. I talk to people who call me and want to just talk.
Mhm.
And what it's allowed me to do is give out. I sponsor men in the rooms of recovery. I give out
Mhm.
instead of being
Mhm.
so self-absorbed about fixing me. I'm good.
Mhm.
That's what I say. I'm good. So
Yeah.
it's important for me to say that.
Yeah, definitely. And I think when you're not focusing on, the next thing within yourself, then it opens up the door to say, how can I serve other people given my experiences and what I've been
Mhm.
through? And I think your story and the work that you do is just so inspiring that like you can come back from anything. You can take the power back of all of the things that have happened to you at any point, right? It's just making that decision for yourself and having that revelation of like something has to change or else this is just going to keep continuing.
You still got to do the work.
Mhm.
There's 4 areas. I still had to do the work. I
Mhm.
just didn't say one day, "Hey, I'm well," or I just said, "Hey, I'm not gonna be shame-based anymore." I just didn't do
Mhm.
that. I did years of work
Mhm.
because I needed to understand why I did certain things. I'm a real big one on scripts.
Mm.
We have scripts. We have defense mechanisms. We have self-talk
Mhm.
that affects us negatively.
Mhm.
I was married and I cheated on my wife. And I spent 2 years, literally every other week, meeting with my sponsor at the time, meeting with my counselors to try to understand why I engaged in that behavior.
Mm.
And I understand, I'm not gonna go into the depth, but I understand now
Mhm. Yeah.
why I had the inability to say no. Why do I try to buy friends? I started buying people when I was 9 years old. I would steal
Mm.
money out of my mom's purse, go to the store and buy candy so you would like me.
Mm.
You would like me. You wouldn't reject me because I'm giving
Mm.
you candy, even though
Mhm.
I'm stealing from my mother who loves me tremendously.
Mhm. Yeah.
10, 9 and 10. I learned to lie when I was 7 years old. Why?
Mm.
Because I had to lie because my father would say, "Did you do XYZ?" And if I didn't do it, I'd get beat.
Mhm.
But I could lie and said I did it and he'd let it go.
Mm.
So I learned the power of lying
Mhm.
at 7 years old. Will we take all
Mhm.
this into our adulthood?
It's so important to do the work and understand why we do the things that we do and where they're coming from, because that allows us to have a lot more self-compassion for ourselves when we do things like lie or cheat or steal or whatever it is. If we understand what's going on inside of ourselves, I think it opens up the door to have a little bit of grace and compassion. And I'm curious how you went from, standing in front of the mirror and saying really negative things to yourself to changing your relationship to yourself, going from hating yourself to having a positive relationship to yourself.
At some point, I had to get a relationship with self and a relationship with God. And I always talk to everybody I talked about God and spiritual entities. I said, the only thing I care about, I don't care what you call it, Buddha, Allah, God, Jesus Christ,
Mhm.
I don't really care. Does that entity modify your behavior?
Mm.
And I have a God that modifies my behavior because I have my will and God's will. And
Mm.
98% of the time, they're in congruence and
Mm.
alignment. I just do the right thing. It's by habit. I just do the right thing. But
Mhm.
just 2% of the time, I'm left with a decision. And my will says less pain or more pleasure. That's my will in opposition to God's will.
Mm.
And can I have the fortitude, the courage, and the knowledge of the right thing to do
Mm.
for me, society, family, and myself? And then the last thing I'll say on this is self-esteem. I had to learn how to let go and forgive
Mm.
myself.
Mm.
To understand
Yeah.
I'm just a child of God. I'm fallible. I make mistakes. I made mistakes. I was guilty, but I'm
Mhm.
not shame-based. That I am.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, Ken, thank you so much for being on the show. I will include all the links to support you and book you and all of those things. But thank you for your time.